All right. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about how does the skin heal itself, and what are some things that you can do to help it, and what are some things that you can do to hurt it. So let me go and I got some PowerPoints that I wanted to pull up, some different images, so you can see what we got going on, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that up and make that available to everybody. Now, first thing first, I need to show you something real quick. Remember this, and we'll get to where we're going in just a second. Remember this: the skin is made up of three different layers. You've got an epidermis, you've got a dermis, and then you've got a subcutaneous layer. So the epidermis, of course, is made up of 4 to 5 layers of epithelial tissue. And then the dermis is made up of 2 different layers of connective tissue. And of course, the subcutaneous layer has no definitive start or stop. It's made up of a lot of areolar and adipose connective tissue. So if you think about it, what they're made out of is going to go a long way in determining what each layer can do, as well as how each layer can heal when damaged. You know, with the epidermis, all you're doing is replacing cells. There's nothing, you know, the cells, these epithelial cells, they have very little substance in between them. They're really stacked together like bricks in a brick wall. So there's very little in between them except a little bit of mortar that's holding them together. So if you damage epithelial cells, if you damage epithelial tissue, not a lot is going to happen. You're just going to remove them and then put those dudes back. Unfortunately, because they're interlocked with one another so tightly, that's why things like hangnails and dandruff can cause so much damage. Because when you peel away one layer of cells, you peel away several groups of cells because they're all interconnected. So that's never a fun feeling. Then just below the epidermis, you have the dermis, which this is going to really hurt because this is the place where you have a lot of structures here. You've got a lot of blood vessels and nerve fibers running through here, and that's not going to be good for you because that means when you get damage down to the dermis, you're going to bleed because the blood vessels are down there. Notice you don't see any blood vessels in the epidermis, but you do see blood vessels in the dermis. And you've got these yellow things, which are nerve endings that are running all through the upper portion of the dermis. And then last but not least, you have the subcutaneous layer, which is an even worse hot mess than the other two if you damage it. Also, something you need to keep in mind is that you never want to go this deep because underneath the subcutaneous layer is your muscle, your bone, your internal organs. So this is a non-negotiable. You've got to stay away from these areas. So let's talk about, let me back out of that. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's get to where we start talking about skin and healing itself. There we go. When you start talking about healing tissue, specifically the skin, basically what we have here is here's two processes that can be involved when we damage skin. One is regeneration. That's the replacement of damaged cells with the same cell type. So it restores organ function, which, you know, your liver can regenerate parts of itself, which is great. We're absolutely ecstatic that we have that ability because your liver has like 20 essential functions that you can't live without. Your liver go bye-bye, you go bye-bye. So with the epidermis, because it's made out of epithelial tissue, I got tongue-tied there. Because the epidermis is made out of epithelial tissue, regeneration is always a good choice here. Whereas fibrosis happens when you fill a hole with a bunch of scar tissue made up of mainly collagen fiber in that area. Now, you're going to have regeneration which is going to really take place primarily in the epidermis. And you're going to have fibrosis, which is going to primarily take place in the dermis. So when we start talking about the stages of wound healing, first stage, you wind up, and I don't know why my slide looks like that. That's pretty jacked up. But stages of wound healing. First stage, cut blood vessels, bleed into the wound. Stop. Pause right there. All right. Now, you need to understand something real quick. You can cut your skin and not bleed. Do you know how? Think about it. Okay, you got it? You thought about it? Think about this. I can cut your skin without you bleeding as long as I don't go beyond the epidermis. As long as I cut into the epidermis, you're not going to bleed. Why? Because the epidermis is avascular. There's no blood vessel in it. So if this thing is telling me that we've cut blood vessels and it's bleeding into the wound, your cut has been deep enough to go into the dermis. So then, because blood is being released, a blood clot automatically forms, and leukocytes, aka white blood cells, come in an attempt to clean the wound. Things like macrophages. And that blood clot is a great thing because that blood clot is going to help act as a temporary barrier against pathogens. Because when you got that cut, what you don't know is that you basically open the floodgates for all those different pathogens to get inside of you. So you want to get that blood clot up ASAP so that you can work on replacing that skin that was lost. The blood vessels regrow, and then some granulation tissue starts to form, and then this connective tissue starts to form within the wound, and the epithelial tissue regenerates, and then connective tissue fibrosis occurs. So basically what they're saying is, once we get a blood clot there, once we start working on a scab to protect us from the pathogens on the outside, the body says, ooh, okay, I'm ready to do what I got to do. And so all this vascular or blood vessel laden connective tissue starts forming in the wound. Now that sounds like a great idea, but not necessarily, because when you start laying down all that connective tissue, it's not following the previous pattern. It's not rebuilding itself the exact way that it was beforehand. It's rebuilding itself based on now, therefore creating fibrosis, therefore leading to a scar. And so if you get a cut, wound damage in the right place in your body, it could reduce your body's ability to be able to flex and move and jump and run and spin. You may lose some of your mobility. You may lose some of your athleticism. You may lose some of your flexibility. And wound healing, takes a while. Now, unless you're Wolverine and you got a healing factor, it's going to take some time. It really will. Now, you can speed this up by, first of all, making sure that you disinfect the wound and the area around it. Please, oh please do this. So, let's say you cut your hand. One of the things you want to do is go get some soap and water. Wash your hands very carefully, then pat to dry, and then use something like some witch hazel, to put around the wound and on the wound so that you can kill any other types of pathogens who are trying to get into the opening. Then you can apply a little bit of Neosporin or some type of first aid cream, and then promptly cover that cut or wound up. Please. I don't know what it is with us guys, but us guys, we tend to get, extra merit badges from other men when we show them how gruesome our wounds are. You get a group of men together and we'll sit around talking. We're sitting there drinking something and watching the game, and all of a sudden someone rolls up their leg and says, well, you look at that right there. And you got this like 8-inch scar going down their arm. And they're sitting there bragging about how, they got thrown through a window while they were drunk. And everyone's like oohing and ahhing. What people are forgetting that with that wound, the reason why he's got that 8-inch scar is because he ripped through the skin, totally obliterated the epidermis and the dermis, a part of the subcutaneous layer. And so his body spent months on top of months, maybe almost over a year, trying to heal itself and put things back together. Because once it lays down all those protein fibers, the body won't quit. The body will say, you know what? I put down all those protein fibers, but that area doesn't look all that good. Maybe we can kind of start working on the area to remodel it. And so we'll end with this. You can see where here's the wound that occurs right there. You can see blood filling in the wound. And what's funny is they show this blood pooling in here, but essentially we don't see it that way. We see when the blood is, running out all over the place. But this person got a pretty deep cut. It cut past the epidermis and down into the dermis. And it hit some blood vessels. And the blood vessels are releasing blood into this area until ultimately it becomes a blood clot, which we commonly refer to as a scab. But lo and behold, guess who was catching a ride through those same blood vessels? Your macrophages, your ribosomes. Okay, I mean not your ribosomes, excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't even know what I was saying with that. You got your macrophages, your fibroblasts. I was sitting there looking at the cell notes that we're making, and I've still got cells on my mind. So you got macrophages, fibroblasts, and neutrophils. Macrophages are there to engulf pathogens and debris. And trust me, you've got a lot of debris in here that needs cleaning up. The fibroblasts are going to migrate into this area so that they can lay down more protein fibers to replace all the protein fibers here that were removed. And the neutrophils are here specifically to attack bacteria. And trust me, bacteria are in the air. They're on everything that you touch and eat. So some bacteria could have inadvertently gotten into this hole, and so your neutrophils need to chase down those pathogens and execute them quickly. And then we've got this area here where we've got the blood clot. You can see that over time the macrophages have cleaned a lot of this up. The fibroblasts have continued to lay down protein fibers such as collagen and elastic protein fibers, as we are now pushing this hole upward so that we can ultimately fill the hole with more epithelial tissue. And that is about as simple as it gets. Really, you want to help this thing speed up, so you want to disinfect this area. Keep it clean. Keep it covered. The more you keep it clean, the more you keep it covered. Don't keep it too covered for too long, because you can build up heat under here and build up moisture, and then it makes it a perfect environment for more bacteria to get in here and grow. So, every once in a while when you get home, you want to uncover the wound, let it catch some air. Another thing is that, as you can see here, the person initially got cut, but it made that blood clot to cover it itself and heal it with that scab. Don't pick this off. I know people have a bad habit of picking their scabs. When you pick your scab, you unveil all of this to the rest of the outside world. Bacteria get in here, they start killing off cells, and then you wind up with a lot of angry people looking at you because you won't cover that thing up, because now it's all festered and yellowish and greenish and stuff. It looks gross. Do not remove this cap. Let the cap remove itself. And then after that, you begin to build underneath it, therefore pushing the hole upward and away from the entire body, which ultimately, when this is all said and done, looks like such. And you have the residual scab there, but then you've got the rest of your skin. And I would say that's all we got for you tonight. We're going to call it quits. We're going to make it short, sweet, to the point. So I will bid you adieu for the night, because I know you guys got stuff that you've got to do. And so we will see you on the next round. Peace.